Now comes a very interesting and important part, which is macro versus micro. How do you understand macroeconomics and how do you understand microeconomics? So the word micro means small, a very easy to understand concept, right? So microeconomics implies the study of economics at a very small level. How do you understand small level economics? Small level economics is the study of one single individual, the study of one single company, the study of one single household, the study of one single shop. These are very small units in an entire economy. The entire economy is the whole country, the whole world, the whole continent, etc. So these are very large level, enterprises. These are very large level concepts to study. But micro is a study of individual household, the individual consumer, the individual buyer, the individual seller, the individual producer. This is what the study of microeconomics entails. In a society comprising of many individuals, collectively every single individual makes a very small part of it. So the economic decisions taken by a single individual become the subject matter of microeconomics. Now what happens is, in the entire understanding of economics as a subject, we obviously talk about the government's decision, we talk about the policies, we talk about the GDP, etc. But all of these decisions are guided by the understanding of what the common man feels, right? If the common man feels a certain way for the policies that the government of the country is making, the entire country reacts in a certain way towards that policy. Now that is why the understanding of microeconomics is something that is very necessary. We need to understand how every individual will react towards the concepts or towards the budgets or something, whichever decisions are economic in nature, how every individual will react to those decisions. And that is why the study of micro individuals or micro enterprises or micro level production units, etc. is something that is very important. Now, when we talk about the concept of macroeconomics, the word macro means very large. It's the opposite of micro, of course. In comparison to an individual, the society, the country or economy as a whole is very large. So the economic decisions taken at the level of the government, the economic decisions taken at the level of, United Nations will be something that are very large in nature. They'll take care of, or they'll take under their purview a lot of other concepts which are not under the concept of microeconomics. Like for example, let's say the trade treaty which is happening between two countries, let's say America and China, is not something that I as an individual citizen of India am concerned about. But the United Nations will very much be concerned about how the trade relationship between two of the most powerful countries in the entire world is going around. So in that case, macroeconomics is something that is that has a subject matter which is very vast, which is not something very individualistic in nature, but it comprises of all the individuals that we are talking about. So the decisions taken by the government are meant for solving the problems of the entire society. The decisions taken by the United Nations as an organization are meant for solving the problems of the entire world or something like that. So here comes a very interesting concept. How do you understand macro and micro in a very day-to-day concept, as a very day-to-day concept? So first of all, let's talk about how macro looks at the entire economy and how micro looks at the entire economy. We have two images over here, the bird's eye view and the worm's eye view. Macroeconomics is something that looks at the entire economy like a bird looks at the forest. You can see over here the entire forest, the entire canopy, everything is visible from the top. Here, no individual tree commands extra attention from the bird, right? No individual tree is something that is worth looking at. I don't want to look at this particular tree, or I do not want to look at this particular tree. I want to look at this entire image, right? This becomes the study of macroeconomics. You look at the entire economy, you look at the entire country, you look at the entire world as an economic unit, as an economic agent. This is what bird's eye view entails. Then comes the worm's eye view, the eye view of a small insect inside the forest. How does the insect look at the entire forest? The insect cannot look at the big picture because it's not so high up in the atmosphere that it can look at the entire canopy. So what it looks at is individual units. You can look at the individual bark of this tree. You can look at the individual bark of this tree. So this gives you the worm's eye view, the view of how a worm looks at the entire forest. Let's consider the forest to be an economy, and I am an individual consumer. So my decisions of consumption, production, my decision of anything will be guided by how the entire economy is functioning. Like in this case, there is a worm who sees that there is a tree which has, a lot of thick leaves, and it has a very thick bark. So it is a very good place for an insect to make a small, house of its own, right? Because it's a very safe place. So the individual worm looks at individual things in the entire forest. It looks at individual trees in the entire forest. But the bird's eye view, it is something that is very large in nature. It looks at the entire economy in nature. So this entire concept is what macro looks like, and this entire concept is what microeconomics looks like. So I hope this made a lot of sense to you. And hereby we've ended the entire chapter of what is economics. So thank you for your understanding. These are the key takeaways that you can take away from this entire lesson. First one, economics is a social science. Economics is not an exact science, but it's a social science dealing with human individuals and their thoughts, their brains, etc. Then the meaning and definition of economics, we've talked about what economics means. It is a study of how human beings allocate scarce resources in order to get the maximum amount of satisfaction. And then came the lot of definitions from the early 18th century to the present day definitions of economics. Lastly, we discussed about macro and microeconomics, the bird's eye view and the worm's eye view, and how a lot of economies function in the entire country. So thank you, and I hope to see you in the next class.